I'm just gonna open up and say it. Stories can be messy, confusing, and downright maddeningly impossible to understand when it's thrown at you in bits and pieces, out of order, and over the span of years. Yeah, I know I'm partly to blame for some of that. To make amends, let me tell you the story of the Great Schism, the Celestial's Heart, the artificial celestial project, and the mystery package that kickstarted your whole adventure. So back in, I don't know, the year of 3700 Chaos Era, the Great Schism happened as lore tells us. A catastrophic clash between all-powerful celestials split the single sky continent into 1,000 sea islands and hundreds of sky islands. Then the story fades into myth and legends. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. There was no proof of that. Till now. What if I told you the Aura Drinker truly battled it out with the other Celestials? Ponder the possibility that the four Celestials, empowered by the greatest of their kin, really did conceive the races of our world and then fostered them for hundreds of years. The elemental sowing her powers through the land, giving fire to the cold, feeding water to the crops, planting gems in the earth, and gifting wind beneath the wings of every bird who soared. The Fae were created in this chaotic construction, born to be free spirits as their creator hadn't even intended their conception. The Golem, sturdiest and oldest, taught the dwarves how to establish roots and cultivate the land. It was with his wisdom we built our first shelters to shield us from when the elements became too much to bear. The shapeshifter filled the world with the beasts of burden, the animals that became our companions, the larger-than-life behemoths that see all as prey. And finally, the bestials that are the best of them all. And the limitless potential, who inspired all denizens of Aouria to not just survive, but thrive. I remind you of these myths because you need to understand one simple truth. All that did happen. Now, fast forward in time, thousands of years. Bypass the formation of the Dwarven Coalition, past Hydrius the Eminent and his endless empire, and even skip all three Heavens Wars. All the way to the year 293 of the Order era. About 80 years ago or so. The fine citizens of the Sea Island of Sollemnis discover something truly unique. Right in their own backyard, as a matter of fact. Deep in an underground cavern, a team of explorers unearthed what seems to be a magic crystal. Now, it's not just any magic crystal. No, this one's the size of an airship. The people of this island soon realized this crystal defies logic as we know it. You see, here's a little bit of science. Matter must exist in one of three forms: solid, gas, or liquid. Yet this crystal is all three simultaneously. At first, it appears to be a solid harder than diamond, but as time passes, it subtly changes forms without any recognizable pattern. Next, our fine explorers discern that it slowly melts like ice, the crystal shedding a fine liquid off its surface. The fluid changes color too. Sometimes it drips red or blue or any other color you can imagine. A cascade of rainbow liquid slowly pools underneath it. But if not cultivated appropriately, the liquid will dissolve and fade into a mist. Alchemists and scientists flock to this groundbreaking discovery and soon determine an answer to its mysteries. I want you to visualize magic as a free-flowing energy. Like the wind crossed with the sun? Yeah. Now imagine that material being drawn together into a single fixed point by gravity. Okay, you got that? Finally, envision an overwhelming amount of energy pushed into such a tiny space that it took physical form denser than any sky core. Got it? That is the crystal. Raw, tightly compressed magic. This otherworldly item is dubbed by the locals as the Celestial's Heart. The people of Sollemnis learned how to wield the power of the heart via harvesting the liquid droplets, now dubbed Celestial's Tears, Their alchemists discovered the tears could be used as an arcane fuel, allowing them to create complex magitech devices without needing a Fey partner for their source magic. Additionally, the Celestials' tears are purer than any Fey magic. One drop of a red tear has enough energy to fuel 100 lampposts for 5 years. Using the tears, the island of Sollemnis started a magitech renaissance the world of Aouria has never seen, spiraling the sea island into a golden age. You've possibly heard of this world wonder in campfire stories or old tomes, but never been able to locate it on any official map or atlas. Well, the island still exists, and some of you have even been there, though you saw this once great civilization in its current state of ruin and overgrowth. The island known as Truncantis. Now, you're probably wondering, how did the magical gem of the Endless Sea become the inhospitable jungle island of Truncantis? Well, in the year 339 of the Order era, thanks to their prosperity and fortune, Sollemnis couldn't help but rise to the plateau of being a world power. On that stage, though, stood the Heavens Federation, a nation that dared no more rivals. The Heavens Federation eventually learned of the Celestials' heart and, big shocker, aimed to steal it for themselves. They used this multi-layer plot utilizing sleeper agents and unsavory figures like the cultists of the Aura Drinker and inserted them into the population of the magical utopia, all in the hope of creating a disaster that would give the Federation an excuse for a military intervention, though their true objective was the lifeblood of the island. However, it went terribly wrong. You see, there's one type of celestial tear that yielded no known magical properties, the black tear. No matter what the alchemists, scientists, and scholars did, they could not get a reaction out of the substance. That was until an off-limits reservoir was broken into and plundered. They were stolen by a deacon and his fellow Aura Drinker zealots. Once they had their hands on a large quantity of black tears, the deacon led a ritual in consuming it. All 50 members of the coven drank the raw liquid magic as their god had before. 49 of them died in the process. One did not. Our survivor's body began to warp. Muscles bulged, mind distorting, and he became the embodiment of the very thing he worshipped. The Federation referred to this man as Project Alpha, the first artificial celestial. Though I'd wager you know him by his preferred name, Abraham, the self-titled Aura Drinker of Truncantis. Abe's power ran unchecked. With the ability to literally eat magic, all of Sollemnis' weapons and fortifications became their weakness. Their attempts to stop him only made him stronger and grew his appetite. The self-proclaimed god would go on a crazed killing spree that lasted 27 days straight. The Federation, waiting in the wings, finally saw their opportunity, and Vice Admiral Felix Deimos would order a blockade of the island. Anyone who tried to escape was ordered to turn back to the terror that they had fled, or, if they ignored the military decree, their ships were sunk. Once Abe finished his rampage on the island, the Federation's next step was to eliminate him and claim the heart. The Vice Admiral was no fool, though. He knew Project Alpha couldn't be allowed to escape, so when he sent teams to the island, they had no means of return till they sent up a flare that the monster was dead and the heart was ready for retrieval. At first, squads were sent, but their flares never fired. Next, the Admiral escalated to ordering full platoons deployed. But Project Alpha was powerful and well-fed from devouring Sollemnis. A few flares would light up, but it was never in victory. Instead, they were fired by exhausted and battered survivors needing to be rescued. For 2 years, the Federation sent soldiers to the island, and for 2 years, they failed. Eventually, a last-ditch, multi-pronged effort was developed which would utilize half a regiment. 400 Marines were deployed to the island. 75% of the force had the sole mission of keeping Abe's attention, while the remainder secured the Celestial's heart for removal. It took 11 long hours, but the excavation team succeeded in their goal, and a pair of Hiens airlifted the magical resource off the island. The remaining soldiers weren't extracted, though, Vice Admiral Deimos determining them too large a security liability for his future plans. They were left behind to suffer a brutal demise, to guarantee they could never tell the rest of the world about the terrifying monster. With their prize finally secured, the Federation made a substantial effort to rewrite history. The island of Sollemnis was struck out of all official records, and any new maps and charters would have the island erased from them, letting the once magical utopia fade into memory. Anyone that knew of the island and pushed a little too hard to figure out why it suddenly vanished was, silenced. The island was patrolled for a decade by Hiens. Any ships that came close were sent away. Eventually, they republished the island as Truncantes, and in the description made it as unappealing as possible. They left Abe and the Truth isolated on that island to hopefully be forgotten by everyone. While initially they wanted the Heart to start their own Magitech renaissance, Vice Admiral Deimos changed his mind after seeing the power of Project Alpha. Instead, he started his own project to recreate the Mad Deacon, but in the form of a soldier he could control, because, he's not stupid. So, a little over 20 years ago, the Heavens Federation began the Artificial Celestial Project. It took them years before they had a successful candidate. First, they practiced on corpses or those near death to avoid suspicious casualties. They eventually moved on to still living beings, their success rates gradually rising as time passed. As of today, they have 11 successful projects, 4 of which were made in the last year. To say they're close to mass production is an understatement. This next part of the story I'll be vague on. It's just not my tale to tell, Well, I know you'll know eventually. Regardless, the political landscape shifted, and a little over 10 years ago, a new fleet admiral took power, Johann Engel. Admiral Engel quickly took stock, ousting the old guard one by one, which would eventually include his longtime rival and adopted brother, Vice Admiral Felix Deimos. The former Vice Admiral was assassinated. While the official reports say he died in the line of duty, during my time undercover, I managed to confirm it was one of Engel's orders. I discovered a paper trail that connected him to the Nocturne Light during that time. Anyways, this left the Artificial Celestial Project in disarray, and transfer was given to the current Vice Admiral Siegfried Wahl. One of the few officials left standing was Commodore Caleb Marshall, who had been fiercely loyal to the previous administration. In response, Caleb teamed up with the lead scientist on the project, and together they attempted to destroy the Celestial's heart. They did succeed in shattering the massive crystal-like structure into hundreds of pieces, but what came out of its core shocked them. A seemingly ordinary girl with raven hair and a scar on her right eye. I didn't believe it at first, but Caleb is a good man, and he swore he wasn't lying when he told me the story. My time undercover also gave me the chance to interview other witnesses. They confirmed the same findings. A girl came out of the Celestial's heart, and her blood was the same consistency as the Black Celestial's tears. Or, I suppose, should be renamed the Celestial's blood. The package you've been protecting this entire time, the one the Federation has been trying to kill you to take back for the last year, this girl, the one you've come to know as Kaya, she is without a doubt a Celestial from all those millennia ago.